Another post on woodland ground flora. Going to take a little walk through this area of coppice, which I cut 3 growing seasons ago. So this has had 3 summers growth, into an area which my neighbours cut 2 growing seasons ago. I'd normally focus on the regrowth of the hazel, which in here is okay-ish, could be better. But as I walk, I'd like you to focus on the ground flora. The grass here, looks like badger truffling activity. And come out to this Dorset gate. Can you see an abrupt transition? Let's open this gate and see if we can see it better. Get rid of the hat. Right, that up. Right, you can see where the gate was, just about along that line. Suddenly you go from that to this. You've got lots of grass. This I think is deer browse damage, or the effect of deer browsing. Perhaps I oughtn't to call it damage. This is certainly an effect. Basically the areas over here, which have been dead hedged against deer, showing a lot less grass, a lot more bluebells and similar. As well as browsing the regrowth of the trees, the coppice, deer, especially sika it seems, will browse the ground flora. And there are a lot of sika deer as well as roe deer in this wood. And what I've done here is put in a Dorset gate. You can just about see it. This stuff is called Tenax. It's basically a nylon mesh, and this is approximately 6 feet high and can be opened by my neighbours or anybody else who has permission to use this wood and walk through. And this area was cut not last winter but the winter before, and this has basically had 2 growing seasons. Some of it has done very well. So this has come up to here and then done all this in a year, which is pretty darn good. But some of it has been eaten off, like this one over here. And you can see what's happened to this one. And over here, and these as well. So hopefully by fencing this against deer, especially if I come along with a chainsaw, take down some of these high stalls, this will re-sprout and make decent growth and end up being a viable hazel crop. But here we have a rarity. This is an oak seedling. See him here. So he's had a year's good growth, then he's been eaten off, and he's sprouted again, and he's been eaten off again, eaten off here, probably on the side here, here, and here. So this little chap had a bit of a hard time after his first year. Now he's in a fenced enclosure, he may well grow on from that, but I don't think he's ever going to make a good timber tree. If we look over here, we can see 2 oak trees, and this is the usual generation of standards in this wood. Oak tree, quite a lot of dead wood in it, quite a lot of rot holes. Not a very good timber tree. This one here is a younger generation, possibly half the age, possibly less. And he's got a lot of damage in the top, so he's lost his leader. The leader on Quercus robur, the English oak, the sessile oak, sorry, the pedunculate oak, is never terribly strong anyway. And one theory is that humans over the last 3,000 plus years that they've been cutting trees to a great extent have been taking out oak trees, whether they've been large trees more recently or younger trees further back. They've always taken the best and straightest, so we've been selecting for poor form of the native oaks. That's both species. Whether that's true or not I don't know, but I've heard it said several times on several different occasions. So one thing we need to think about when we're managing a woodland is how we manage our standards. How many do we want per acre, and at what spacing, and at what age range? I would call these standards. This one's an ash. See, it's different colour. And this one on the right in the back is a sweet chestnut, but all the rest are oaks. They cast a dense shade and they compromise, let's say, the value of the coppice. Your coppice is your cash crop, cut every 5 to 7 years depending on growth rates and what you actually want the material for. And good quality coppice still has value even in the 21st century. But if you have too many standards, too much shading, your coppice regrowth is less and the form is not as good. So where do you want to strike your balance between standards and also their replacements? This little chap down here is one of only 2 oak seedlings I've seen in this area I've been working in the last 4 years. The other one's nice and straight and true, but this one, the deer have got him, and you'll never be tall and straight, never make a timber tree. So do you plant? If you plant, where do you get your seed source from? Is it British native seed? Is it from your local area? And is it the right species? Has someone gone round and collected seedlings from the sessile oak, which, don't forget, in context can be an ancient woodland indicator, and have they gone and planted it into an ancient woodland and then confused things so that in 50-60 years time someone will come along not knowing there's been planting and say, oh, we've got another ancient woodland indicator in our wood? Or do we rely on natural regeneration, which is, I'm convinced, is what was done in the past? Raising trees and nursery costs money. It's more cost effective these days because of specialisation and economies of scale. Or do you go and do what they did do on some sites and just dib in acorns? So collect your acorns, poke a hole with a stick, plonk an acorn in and stamp down on top and hope that the proportion grow. I like to use natural regeneration, but to get successful natural regeneration you have to protect against deer, not just for the first 2 to 3 years after you cut your coppice, but for several years thereafter. So the oak seedlings can get in, can germinate when the coppice is freshly cut, and then grow as the coppice grows, and then survive until the coppice is recut at 7 years. Because if the coppice is left a lot longer than that, then a lot of the natural regeneration tends to die off. That also affects planted trees, especially if they're planted in tubes. I think I've got another video about that. So, lots to think about. I hope that's been interesting, and I hope that makes you think about managing woodlands and asking questions. Thank you very much.